And I've written profiles, I've done finalizations, post-permanency, child profiles, child prep. So I've pretty much done all of the units of service that are offered for adoption and permanency services. But tonight, we wanted to focus on some of our adoptions that have occurred in the past and share with you some information that we have on adoption, some statistics. We're going to show some statistics. We're going to talk about some statistics, but we're also going to talk about the adoption process. So I'll let Dom get started with leading us off here, and I'm going to be his co-moderator tonight, somewhat.
All right. So as far as like the overall statistics involving adoptions, we could go over specific numbers, if anything, but some of the more interesting statistics that I've always looked at are things involving race and ethnicity. Since we are primarily a Hispanic organization, something that I see commonly is a lot of my caseload involves children who are either of mixed race or Hispanic, African American, and that actually it reflects on the statistics of kids who are going through adoptions. You'll see that 23% of these children are African American, and then you've got 21% that are of some Hispanic descent. There is an outstanding amount of children of Caucasian descent at 44%, with the last few percentages being either two or more races, or Asian, or Native, or American Indian. As far as the total amounts, what you will see is, as far as like the numbers that are in foster care specifically, in 2019 there were 423,000, and then there were 122,000 that were waiting to be adopted as of September 30th. So obviously there's a very large amount that are not only in foster care, but attempting to go through the adoption process.
Yeah, it's very interesting as you look at the statistics over the years with foster care, how disproportionately the number of children are minorities, and that goes to another element, I guess, that would take up a whole couple hours of StreamYard. I was just in a SWAN, as we're part of the SWAN network. They offer quarterly trainings, and I just participated in one. And one of the topics that we talked about was disproportionality, and disproportionality. We talked about equity. And I was actually looking at some of those slides again before this StreamYard this evening, and we were just looking at those numbers with the number of the African Americans, I believe, make up 12.5%. African American children, I should say, make up 12.5% of the population, but yet over almost 50% of them are in foster care, or make up the foster care population. So there's a lot of social ills that add to that we really, that things that we need to really try to work on as we continue. But tonight, like I said, we want to talk about adoptive parents and highlight the fact that there are resource parents and adoptive parents who are out there who want to help these children. And so tonight we have a couple of resource parents currently with our organization who are going to talk about their experience. We have one is a seasoned adoptive parent, and we have a parent who's actually going through the process at this time. So before we get into that, we just wanted to talk a little bit about what the adoption process actually looks like how do, what do a parent actually goes through, the steps that they actually have to go through. And there are actually about 8 steps to an adoption. And so first is, the parent has to be willing to make that commitment to be a parent. So first they select an agency that they want to get with. Now, we at Concilio would love to have every single last one of you become a parent with us. However, geographically, it wouldn't work very well if you lived in Erie and we lived in Philadelphia, and then you got to come down here for trainings and things like that. So first you have to select the agency. And so all of this information you can find on the Adopt PA Kids website. And there's information that will identify that's an agency that's nearby you. And so after you select an agency, then there's the application process. And in that application process, you fill out all your information. It is a very intensive process. There is some information and disclosing of information that you will have to provide. If you have a criminal background, it does not automatically exclude you from anything. So please don't let that discourage any of you out there who are interested in being a parent. It does not exclude you. And so at that point, usually that during the application process, that agency may ask you to participate in an orientation just to get a feel to see if it's a right fit and things of that nature. And as I'm speaking tonight, I just want to make sure that we're talking, there's a difference between a private adoption and a public adoption. All right. So private adoptions are more of ones where people who want to kind of identify a specific type of child, picking out age, race, and things like that. With public adoptions, you can have some of those same avenues. However, there is no specific, we can't guarantee that you're going to get, specifically what you're looking for. And private adoptions could cost up to as much, I believe, a minimum of like $20,000 to do those, to go from start to finish. And with the public adoption, pretty much everything is paid for by the county children and youth agencies. All right. And so moving forward, the next step in the process would be to create a family profile for you. And so if you're going from foster to adopt, you'll already be something like a home study, which is similar to a family profile that will already have been written on you, but it would just be expanded. There's a little more substance in that profile that has to be placed in there before it could be approved in that process. And so then once your family profile is written, it's submitted to other counties, and they, or you can start to look for a child on one of these websites, adoptpakids.org, or outside of PA, you could go to adoptuskids.org and try to identify a child that you would like to place inside your home. And so after you've identified that child, your profile, you would contact your agency and say, hey, I would like to work with this child. At that point, you would they would send your profile to that agency, and that agency will review it and see if it's an appropriate match. And during that matching process, there's some visits. There's a pre-placement visit where maybe you do like a phone conversation with the child, discussing, what the dynamics of your home is like, talk a little bit more about them. At that point, the child will be moved. If everything moves well, then the child will be moved into your home, and that's what we call a placement. And then there's the placement supervision period, in which it's usually a 6-month period to build that relationship and stabilize everything before the finalization. And then finally, there's that finalization. And then there's, again, we talked about placement supervision. You have a worker. There'll be multiple workers, so please be prepared that there will be multiple workers coming to the home and, talking to you, doing certain things. And it's really a supportive effort out there. And then once all that's done, you would meet with a lawyer. All the paperwork would be filed with the court. And at that point, we would, or you would have an adoption finalization, and the child would legally become your biological child and have all of their birth rights. And so as we're moving into the program, we would like to bring in our first guest. Her name is Miss Felicia Wilder Gomez, and she is a resource parent with Concilio. And so, Ms. Gomez, I see you're here now out of the waiting room. How are you today?
I'm okay, so.
I'm good. Okay, so we're going to ask you a couple questions about some of our people out there who are not familiar with the adoption process, just to talk about your experiences a little bit with the process. So Dom and I will go back and forth with asking you some of these questions. So first question to you is, why did you become a resource or adoptive parent?
I became a resource and adoptive parent to pretty much help my nephews and my niece out. I just didn't want to see them in the system. I wanted to provide them with a fair chance, at a good future.
Okay.
Awesome. So that kind of leads into the next question. Was this your first time doing an adoption,
No.
at least through your nephews?
Well, my nephews, that was my first time doing an adoption. And now I'm currently adopting my niece, which is their sister. So this is my second go around.
Okay. And how would you describe that adoption process?
The adoption process has been it's been quite well, actually. Concilio has been really supportive during the process. Yeah.
Well, is there anything about the process that you think could be like improved or changed?
Actually, no. I can honestly say Concilio been probably one of the best agencies that I've ever went through this process with. Actually done this with the caseworkers are supportive. They've been excellent and pairing me with caseworkers that can really relate to me and really understand me. And so honestly, it's been pretty good.
Okay. How long has it been, or when did you complete your first adoption?
My first adoption, it took some time because there were some other issues in the mix of that where the parents were still kind of fighting for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the parents were still fighting for the children. And then it kind of went pretty fast after the other parent decided he didn't want to really, pursue getting them back.
Okay. Well, just for our listeners out there, just so you understand that with a public adoption, the county agency works to work with the biological parents to try to reunify children first. And then once all avenues have been exhausted, they move to the next permanency option, which is adoption. And that requires a parental rights termination hearing. And at that point, even after the parental rights are terminated, they do have the right to appeal up to a certain amount of time before the adoption will move forward with that. But what?
Exactly.
I'm sorry, Dom.
No, it's okay. But speaking of, on the day of the adoption, when you entered into court and everything, how did that feel, or how did it feel like even like the day before?
It was a relief. It was a relief, and we were excited. Me, the kids were excited. My sister actually attended as well. It was just a relief. Yeah.
Okay. Did you guys take pictures in the courtroom?
We did.
Okay. What did you guys do anything special that evening, or is there anything that you do on an annual basis to commemorate that occasion?
We do. That day we actually went out for dinner. Every year we have what's called an adoption day. So we might celebrate and go out or just kind of acknowledge the fact that it was a restart. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Where'd you go to dinner at?
We went to dinner at Olive Garden.
Olive Garden. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully in a few months we can all get back to going to Olive Garden, big Olive Garden table style dinners, right?
I know. Can't wait.
Well, one last thing. What advice would you give to prospective adoptive parents?
I would say be patient, be understanding, because it is a learning experience, and it is worth it. It's definitely worth it. Especially kids are not going to be perfect, and they are coming from different backgrounds. So just try to be understanding to the kids' needs, and and you'll be all right. It's not easy, but it's worth it. And sometimes it is easy, but yeah. Just hang in there, stick it out. It'll definitely be worth it. You'll be glad you did.
Perfect.
Well, we do thank you for participating this evening. I'm sure you have provided our listeners a wealth of information. And again, all of you out there, if you're interested in becoming a resource parent, our tagline is down the bottom. It is elconcilio.casebook.net/authentication to register to become a resource parent. And if you want to view some children who are currently either legally free or close to being legally free for adoption, in a tagline down the bottom. For Pennsylvania children only, it is adoptpakids.org. And for children outside of Pennsylvania, it is adoptuskids.org. Thank you again, Ms. Wilder Gomez. And good luck on your upcoming adoption, as we are working on that one right now with you.
Yep. Thank you.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. All right. So we're going to get ready to segue into our next guest. However, Dom and I wanted to talk a little bit about post-adoption agreements and what they are and what they mean. And so a post-adoption agreement is a legally enforceable agreement made between the adoptive parent and the birth relatives, as well as the child themselves. And I'd be remiss to say that, the children have a strong say in this process as well. Children who are 13 and older can legally refuse not to be adopted if they want to. Sometimes that does occur with some children who've been in care but still have that relationship with their biological parent. And so what this voluntary agreement allows for agreement to have communication with the birth relatives after a child has been adopted. And the adoption, it doesn't stop the adoption, it doesn't prevent the adoption from occurring. It is all parties kind of have to agree to it for it to actually take place. And the different types of contact that can occur could be unsupervised or supervised visitation, phone calls, FaceTime, letters, cards, gifts, pictures, or anything else that was kind of like mutually agreed upon. And the location of visits are usually set up where it's a safe location for everybody, where everybody feels safe, and that'll all be determined at the court hearing. And if a resource parent or adoptive parent does not want to sign a PACA, that's it's perfectly within their rights. Again, it has to be mutually agreed upon. And again, as I said, the PACA is not affected. Your adoption is not affected if you do or do not sign the PACA. So if you want more information about a PACA, if you are an adoptive parent or if you get to that process, you can speak to your agency worker, you can speak to your DHS county worker, as well as your lawyer about that. And Dom and I guess we can talk a little bit about, I don't know how many times if you had a PACA signed or how often that comes up.
Well, I was going to add real quick. A lot of times, because in my case load, much of what I've experienced has mostly involved people who don't want to sign the PACA agreement, post-adoption contact agreement, just to make sure that people know. The reason why is because they specifically state that they want to try to control how often and how long the child will see their biological parent at their own discretion. A lot of times in a PACA, it is specifically stated that the child will meet with the biological parent at XYZ time for XYZ length, and it will be specifically written out. So instead of doing that, a lot of times parents will be like, well, I could probably control that, or maybe I don't want them to see them 2 times a week or 2 times a month or something like that. Maybe this month we'll hang out a little more often or a little less often. But that can be discussed at your own discretion versus having it written out in a PACA agreement.
Yeah, my experiences with the PACA have been kind of been up and down. To me, it's always dependent upon the relationship between the biological parent and the resource parent. Usually, if they're pretty cordial, they'll agree to those types of things. But if they have cantankerous relationships, sometimes they don't like to silent. We try to, as much as we do adoption counseling, we always try to make sure that child, especially if they're older children, have that connection with their biological parents. Because once you get to that certain age, you're calling this person mommy, you're calling this person daddy, you know who they are, and then all of a sudden, no, we're just not here anymore. So it's always something that we always try to encourage. Just again, it's often still about the safety and the well-being of the children. And I guess to talk a little bit more about some of the populations, because I think there's a common misconception that once kids get to a certain age, that they either don't want to get adopted or they can't be adopted. And we've done adoptions past 18 years old before, so you can do adoption past 18. So there are, when you go to these websites, the Adopt PA Kids or the Adopt US Kids, you will start to see some children who are older. You will also see a number of sibling groups, and you'll also see a group of LGBTQ, which is another population that highly needs adoptive parents out there as well. So I did want to put those in there. So for those individuals who are out there looking would know some of the major the populations that need the help the most. All right, so we could get into our next interview with Miss Toni White, who is hi Miss White, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Okay, we are great. So we are winding down our StreamYard this evening, and you are our last guest. And so we have a couple questions for you. Could you tell us what made you want to become a resource or adoptive parent?
Yes. Well, also my nephew was in need, just as your last guest. And my family, my grandmother has like 7 foster adopted children.
Okay.
So it's something that my family's kind of used to. But definitely my nephew was in need, and once I got into the program, I see that there are other children in need. So I'm still interested in, I guess, going forward with maybe possible adoptions once this one is completed.
Okay.
Awesome. And as you're currently going through this process, how would you kind of describe your situation? How's it been so far?
It's actually going pretty well. He's I've had him since he was 5 months old. He's 3 years old now, so it's going pretty well. You have a lot of support. You have Concilio, you have COOR, DHS, I guess what you would call them. So it's kind of like the village before you're on your own, which is the resources are awesome. They really are.
When did you know you wanted to adopt your nephew?
The day that he was taken, I guess taken by the Department of Human Services, when I found out about the problems that he was going through, then immediately I knew that would be the best situation for him. I know I have the resources for him here. We have the support and the love is here. So I know that, this would be a good situation for him.
Okay.
So I know you're more in the beginning process of the adoption, but when we go through that finalization date, and it's after court and everything, do you have anything planned that you may want to try?
I would like to take him on a trip, or just maybe go somewhere. I would like to say take him to Disneyland, or just somewhere he's never been. But with the current COVID situation, I don't wherever we can get to. I definitely like to have maybe a party or just something for him. But we don't know how many people can attend at this point.
Take us all with you, please. Take us all.
Yeah.
Do you plan on keeping, that with an adoption you can legally change your adoptive child's name? Do you plan on keeping his name, or do you plan on changing his name?
I do plan on changing his last name, just because I believe that would probably be a lot easier with everything that you have to do as far as like getting him in school and trying to get him into different programs. So his last name, but his first and middle name are that of his biological father. I don't believe he's too interested in the situation, so I don't really know what to do with those now. I'm currently, discussing that with with Dominic and with DA just to see what would be the best situation for that. So last name definitely. Listen.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's something that we try to not rush throughout the process. It's kind of introduced during the finalization period, but a lot of times I like to let the parent think about it because it tends to be a big deal. For some parents, they're like, it's a very special thing versus other parents. It's like, oh no, I know exactly what I want to change it to.
Yeah.
Now perfect. Now, we talked about this, you and I specifically, about your involvement with a PACA agreement.
Yes.
And why don't you tell me a little bit about your decision behind that?
I decided not to do the PAC agreement just because my sister, she's not really in a stable place in her life. And that might invite maybe some form of, I don't know, danger to our situation. So I just thought that it would be a better situation to try to maybe wait until she gets clean and, maybe decides to get on a better road before he has to, deal with that situation. So as far as now, we still, I still talk to her on a regular basis when she's the way she should be. When you come to, see a child, then she's allowed to come and see him. But other than that, I didn't want to get locked into something that maybe they weren't willing to do the right things, get clean, come in the right way when it's time to come and visit the child. So I didn't want to deal with that, the drama of whatever might happen if they don't, come that way. I just don't want any problems. So I just thought it'd be better to try to do it, do it just on our own.
Okay.
Understood.
But yeah, and because that's your sister, it's a kinship situation. That connection is still there. So it's something that you can explore in the future, definitely.
Yeah.
Just because it's just the PACA is a voluntary thing and it's legally enforceable. It's not saying that he can't continue to visit with his parents.
Oh no, he definitely does that.
Yeah. So, well, we do thank you for participating in our interview today. I do hope that you are on our Cafecito de Niños tomorrow. That will be hosted on our Zoom chat. We'll be doing a dual Spanish and English translation tomorrow.
Oh, definitely. I definitely will.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you again. All right. Well, that concludes our adoption StreamYard for this evening. Again, if you are interested in becoming a resource parent or an adoptive parent, you can go to the website elconcilio.casebook.net/authentication and /register. The tagline is down the bottom. And if you are really truly interested in becoming an adoptive parent and you want to match yourself up with a prospective child, you can go to adoptpakids.org or adoptuskids.org to identify a child who may fit your need. You can contact Concilio, and a family profile could be generated for you. But do believe that the children, for any child that you're finding on the website, for us to generate a profile and then to be paid for by the county, the child would have to have special needs as well as or possibly be a sibling group of 2 or more, that they will take care of that. And I do want to thank our whole staff at Concilio, the whole adoption team, the foster care department, our administration. I do want to thank Waleska, our executive administrative assistant, who is producing in the background. If you can't see her, she's the one putting up all these banners and messages. That concludes our StreamYard for this evening. We'll see you at the next one.